Okay. So just to start off, what year and where were you born?
So I was born in 1975 and we're in southern Taiwan. So this city called Yunlin. Yeah.
Cool. And what was your hometown like where you grew up? Like, was it very city-like? Or
Uh, yeah. So actually I don't really have that much recollection. So my memory might be mixed with I might make out this memory just because by uh, saw like seeing the photos of my childhood. I think southern Taiwan is more like people farm for a living. So I can't remember we and my parents at that time. I think my father was kind of managed this factory that they produce fresh yeast. So yeah, so basically, I remember we have this huge concrete kind of courtyard, but with like one story house. But basically, it's pretty. The view is that you can see mountain and also a lot of farms from from a distance. Yeah.
that's so cool. So you said you can't like recall that much. Did you move at an
Yeah.
age? Where did you move to and what was that area like?
Okay, so I moved to Taipei, so which is the capital, which is a big city. And I think roughly when I was probably 6, yeah. hmm
And why did your family move to the capital?
Yeah, so I think mostly it's my mom's idea, I think. So my mom, my mom grew up in even uh, southern Taiwan, which her family was very traditional. So when she grew up, basically her parents think that, as a girl, that you don't really get educated for too far. So she had to fight to even like recruit like teachers help to convince the parents eventually he can kind of like get high school diploma. But so she always have the thing, it's like, oh, if I'm not gonna let my kids encounter the similar situation. So basically she wants us to study, which is probably collide with the stereotype a lot of Asian or Taiwanese families. So uh, at that time, she wanted to move Taipei because Taipei is a city, capital city, and just basically have more resources. So just wanted to make sure that the kids can get a better education.
That's really interesting. Did you have any like favorite like spots to hang out in Taipei?
Yeah, so we moved actually more of like outskirt of Taipei. So back then, it's like the capital is Taipei City, and then outside that is a Taipei County. So but right now they changed it to Taipei City and the new Taipei City actually. I forgot when they changed that. And but I remember when we were in so we moved to Taipei County before, and then we eventually moved into Taipei City. And Taipei County is still like, even though it's very close to Taipei City and then has a lot more, say, buildings that's a little bit taller than where I was born, but still kind of rural like looking, I think. I remember the handout is like so probably right next to so my dad in order to move there, so my dad working in another factory that so near our house, and I think there's a hill. It's like a small hill right next to the factory or the house. Exact location I don't remember, but it's like back then, like as kids, it's like huge, probably like we consider that mountain. But now I recall it's basically just some hill. Um, I remember we neighboring kids or whatever, my brother, older brother, and then we go there and just running around or do like hide and seek and that type of thing. Yeah.
That sounds fun. I feel like a big hill would be like really fun as a little kid.
Yeah, just something for kids, just like a lot of things to explore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how I feel like what you've been describing, you moved
Mm-hmm.
around a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
How did that kind of like affect your childhood? Like, was it easy to make friends at every new place, or was it hard? What was that like?
I would say that so even I think maybe it affect my older brother a little bit more. Maybe I can't speak for him, but so I moved to Taipei County, but very quickly moved into the kind of the so-called suburban area of the Taipei city. And then once we moved there, we kind of I stayed there from the whole elementary school. So and then we moved to another house which is very close by. Um, once I start my middle school, so for me it's like I don't really have any interruption. Say I finish my elementary school in one school. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that must have been like easier to
Mm-hmm.
make friends and stuff. So more about like your childhood. What is like the earliest memory you have of your childhood?
Mm, I would say that it's kind of tricky. So I mentioned that my mom is actually really into getting education, right? So so I was born in September. So say usually the school year they admit kids from say um, September to the next say July 1st or whatever. So so which means that if I follow the follow the regular whatever the rules, then I should be in the next school year. But somehow that my mom didn't want me to set fall behind because you know you want to win at the starting point. So I remember my mom somehow let me start my elementary school at my grandparents' neighborhood, which is southern Taiwan, is Tainan, so countryside. Since it's countryside, so the rule is not strict. That's what my mom imagined. And then transfer back to the elementary school in near my near the house in Taipei. So and that was probably only like a 1 month or 2 months period for me, but it kind of I still have memory of it. Maybe could just be like I pictured it. I just kept thinking about it, but um, because then I was away from my core family, so I was staying with my grandparents and uncle and aunts, my mom's side. So so I didn't like it. I always wanted to go home. So so that kind of leave a little mark. Luckily that so I remember like my dad visited me at that school and I was crying and I wanted to like chase him and follow him back to Taipei and stuff. Just because I want to stay closer to my core family. And luckily even I remember it vividly, but it didn't really probably last that long. So I came back to the elementary school in Taipei. Um, and actually, elementary school is a very stress-free environment. Even though a lot of people stereotype for people growing up in Taiwan, just like, oh, you need to study from when you were like a kid. But at least during the elementary school, I could potentially do whatever I want, just kind of playing with other kids. So it was really nice. But I do remember that when so when you before you enter middle school, we in Taiwan we call it junior high. Then the first entrance exam is high school entrance exam. So which means you're like started to go into face the pressure of the exam. And I remember that my mom was really worried. Said that you know you were like playing the whole time in the elementary school. And yeah, even the elementary school we have tests, but it's like so easy, you know, all the kids just score like 100 points, which is like straight A, you know, everybody is kind of like that. And so your ranking is kind of like everywhere because everybody just top one. So my mom was really worried. She actually registered me to this cram school even before I started junior high school. Just like, okay, you know, you gotta go to the cram school after in the evening and after you get off on the regular school. And I was like, no. Yeah, so that's kind of like something I remember. Yeah.
So, would you say like your mom kind of put a lot of pressure on you in
Hmm.
school since like she kind of grew up in a different environment?
Yeah, I think yes, but I would say that compared to other Taiwanese family, maybe she is okay. But now I can like look back, but back then certainly just like, oh yeah, you know, like whenever I wanted to try something new that is not say any school subject related activity, then my mom would be like this GPS, just like, oh yeah, off route, you need to like come back to study and stuff. So certainly getting good grades the subject that will be tested on the entrance exam is like the top priority. Yes.
What were like your favorite things to do, like the favorite games to play with your friends in elementary school?
In elementary school, I don't know. I think we would just run around like so. In this, you know, the track and field, kind of this big space, and just do some random like chasing and tag game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's always fun. And
Mm-hmm.
do you still keep in touch with any of your friends from like that young age?
Yeah, maybe like not from elementary school. Right now, I like trace back, then I have still friend in contact from junior high. Uh, but the funny thing about elementary school is people kind of go very different paths. Um, and oh, actually, I not close contact, but somehow, you know, once people are on Facebook, I think um, I do have some now Facebook friends that just from that time period. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, Facebook is really good for like people from way back when.
Right. Yes.
So we've heard a little bit about like
Hmm.
you and your mother
Hmm.
relationship was like. What was your relationship with your father like?
So my father is kind of doting father, I think. So especially like the traditional view is that they put a lot of, say, you know, being a male supposed like for example, my brothers have to be like more independent, and they eventually have to be like the major wage earner for their household. So and then so my dad was just like he always wanted to have a daughter to dote on. So so he was fine. So it's pretty relaxed, and sometimes he's so relaxed, and my mom will preach him, say, "Come on, your daughter has the potential to get a really high grade, and then you should let her study. You know, not like uh, tell her that you girls should not you don't have to be ambitious." Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting that your parents kind of had like opposing views on that.
Mm-hmm.
So what other values did your parents instill in you other than like education is really important?
Mm, yeah, so I think back then it's like I think the biggest worry is not that they really want us to um have like so-called like make a lot of money or like high social status or whatever, but it's more of like, oh, you need to have this good job and to have financial security. But back then their definition of good job is pretty narrowed. For example, maybe it's like, okay, doctors, lawyers, and professors or teachers, all those things. And then so it seems like and most of them, like I remember when I was in elementary school, my mom already told me that you need to get a PhD. I was like, oh, what was PhD? Back then, yeah, I have no idea what a PhD really means. Yeah, but so I remember since my dad, according to my mom's terms, my dad spoiled me. So I always have this debate, philosophical debate with my mom. It was like, why do I need a PhD? You know, like and stuff. But I do remember that she kept telling me about that. Yeah, and but like my father never really tell me what I need to do or what I should do. But this one thing I would say I really admire my father is it seems like he so he was like manages this factory, and the factory a lot of workers that um so in those factories they hire a lot of women because they just feel like women on the handiwork, it's like they just um like pay more attention and be more careful. And then but those women um always like my father because my father respect them, just like, you know, just no matter your background, and he respect, so they always like him. and and then contrary to like my mom, just like, oh, you need to be a doctor or like medical doctor, so then people will respect you. And so I just like, you know, I mean, you don't I mean, just have to be a good person, right? Yeah, so I kind of like that, just like to like, yeah, I mean, everybody can choose their different paths, and there's a lot of different reasons that you end up in your particular job, but it doesn't mean that, okay, it's a labor intensive job or like knowledge based job, but everybody should deserve this respect. That's kind of, I feel like I learned from my father. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a really important lesson to have
Mm-hmm.
instilled in you as a child. So from what you're describing, would you say like your mother was kind of harder on you and your father was kind of harder on your brother, or were they both kind of like equal?
Mm, I would say that my older brother certainly was treated a little bit different, because I remember, so I have two brothers. So the older brother is treated a lot more different than my younger brother, because the younger brother is the youngest kid. Um, so it's just seems to have a less family responsibility. But my older brother, I feel he was not only the oldest kid of, say, in my family, is also the oldest male in this generation. So my father have siblings, my mother have siblings, but my brother is like the oldest male in, well, in the men dominated society, whatever. So I think he knew, you know, just not just from my parents, also by the social norm that, you know, he's expected to be a certain way. And so, and I remember that my mom certainly would nag him a little bit, but not as much as like micromanage to the extreme like she treated me. But certainly like that's just my mom's personality. She likes to micromanage people. But she certainly, if my older brother would say no, you know, then she would cut him more slack, because expect him to be eventually have to lead the family. Yeah, does that make sense to you? And so I remember when I was a kid, my older brother just like 2.5 years older than me, so he's not like that much older than me. And then I always thought that, oh, my older brother is kind of boring. He's like a little adult already when he was, I don't know, like not even 10 year old. Right. Yeah.
So did he always kind of have that pressure, like even from a young age, since they knew he was going to be the oldest in the generation?
I assume so, because the reason I say so is because he just behaved that way. And then I mean, and then because even I thought he was boring, but certainly as a younger sister, and then he always seemed to be really like logical, reasonable, very calm. So he was my role model. I just like, oh, if I can be like my older brother, then I will be like so mature and then make decisions. But the reason I say that he probably always think that way and act that way. And I remember, so there's one time, so we both of us actually came abroad to like which United States to study. And then since I mentioned that my father kind of dote on me, so when I call home, I always like joke around like with my father, and then and just not really treating like more like treating my father as a peer than like a father figure. And then one time I just like, wow, like we just throw out this brilliant joke and so funny. So then I call my older brother. I gotta share this too. My older brother. It's so funny. And then after I described the whole thing, and then this was this long silence on the other side of the phone. And I just like, what's up? I mean, didn't he feel that was funny? And then, but he said that, they never talk this way with me. Yeah. So I just like, like, so obviously dad treated my older brother like a lot differently than he treated me. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. So I know you said your dad worked in a factory. What kind of factory did he work in? And also, what did your mom do for a living? I think you said she was an educator, but what did she like teach specifically?
So, my dad actually like was doing a lot of different jobs, but when I have memory, so basically, remember I told him he was in this like manage this factory to make fresh yeast and stuff. And so basically, he's actually following this one of his good friend that whose family was probably more wealthy. So that family start their own business, and then my father was more of like the right hand man. So basically, if like this boss, his good friend, need him to do some job, and then he will do. So basically, so he would travel the whole island, Taiwan, to like talk to all the clients or potential clients, collect information, and then even the factory needed to like supervision, and he will be like that role. So and then the funny thing is like my family just like when I they never really like tell us kids say in details like what my father did when we were like in a school age, because my mom was just like, oh, all you have to think about is to study. You don't have to like think too much about like where you are, say, all this sponsorship or where money came from. Yeah, I mean, and my mom actually, my mom paid a lot of attention to education, but she didn't really have a real job, so she was a homemaker for a long time. Unless like say, because sometimes like if the financial situation is like really tight in the family, then she might pick up some like random gig, like for example, like housekeeping or just like or like shop watcher, like that type of thing. Yeah, but her main goal is to raise like all her kids to I don't know, to the highest educational institution she could possibly like and make us fulfill. Yes.
So since she kind of had like an educated background, did she ever help you with your homework? And like, if so, was that like stressful or annoying, or was it like helpful?
Well, she couldn't though, because yeah, once like the because she only I think she only have like a high school diploma, I think. And so once like this the subject reach a certain level, there's no way that she could help. But she would say, oh, you should like ask you if I have questions, you should ask like my older brother to help. And then but my older brother said, no, you should learn how to solve problem on your own. So basically, like whenever I asked my older brother for help for homework, he would give me some hint, like as if you said, okay, now you should try to figure it out on yourself, and then eventually you don't have to ask people to help you. Yeah.
That's probably a better way than just giving you the answer straight up.
Right.
So you also mentioned you had a younger brother. What was your relationship like with him?
So my younger brother, like according to my parent, was an accident. And but I mean, obviously we love him dearly. So he's like quite a few years younger. So he's like about 4.5 years younger than me. So but still not that far. But both brothers, the difference is kind of huge, especially during the school year. So I think mostly I play with my younger brother, especially back then that I either can hang out in my neighborhood, I go to the library. It's not like I go to a lot of different places. So I remember that at least during my elementary school, I probably spent quite a lot of time with my younger brother. Especially the funny thing is, I think when my younger brother was really young, which means like 6 or 7-ish, that I think my mother had to work because the financial situation was kind of tight. So then my mother felt really guilty because she spent a lot of time just together with me and my older brother, just when we were doing homework, just kind of keep us company and all that. And then, but then when my younger brother was at that age, she didn't spend that much time. So I remember that my mom bought we raised a dog, and then like my mom bought my younger brother the equivalent of the PlayStation back then, like Nintendo, like those game that, and then so he actually played quite a lot of video games when he grew up, and he was really good. Yeah.
What other things would you do with your younger brother when you guys were spending time together? Did you like play video games with him too, or did you do other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly play video game with him, even though I suck. But that's kind of a vivid memory because I don't know whether you're familiar, but like sometimes, so video game will be like some puzzle game. I kind of like puzzle game, and then he doesn't like puzzle game, but he'll play with me. And then there's some like action game, so you kind of like have a team, and then you have to fight this random enemy that pop out on the screen. And then there's this thing is like a game, I don't remember the name, but like, okay, we are like these two characters, and then you just have to keep running and keep fighting. And then, but if one of the player advance much farther, so he exits the screen, and then the other one would kind of die because the other one couldn't catch up. So I'm always behind, and then he would stay in the screen for me. But he had to fight a lot more, like say the monsters, in order to keep me alive. So I always remember that I always interpreted my younger brother just kind of have this good heart to like to think for other people. Yeah. And then other things that we might play is like, so my younger brother is very good in dodgeball. And so his accuracy is really good with hit. So I would go, because I like to read, we would go out, and then we would be like, I would stand like reading a book. Like I just stand still at a wall, and then he would like dodge ball, but he would hit me very close on the wall, but never hit me. So it's kind of something really random. Yeah.
That sounds fun. I would do that video game with my siblings, but they would not wait for me. They would just So what kind of conversations did you have with your family around the dinner table or at other meals?
Yeah, the conversation. It's kind of funny that so my father's job is away a lot. So because he has traveled all around, so he has traveled to visit clients for his boss, and then and eventually the factory is more like the southern part of Taiwan. So sometimes he would stay there at length. So um, he would come back on the weekend. So um, so during the weekdays we don't really have like a family dinner, and then my mom is very she like to cook everything on her own because she think that's the most healthy way. And then so you put like, like you would have a plate, like your school cafeteria, you have a plate, and then you put like different dishes or side dishes on the plate, and we all have a plate, and then we just eat out of that plate. Yeah, I mean traditionally the family dinners usually like you're all on the table, and then you kind of like share a lot of food, but that's not uh, in my family. So when when I was a kid, like mostly during the elementary school, the family time is more like my mom would ask my dad that we would go to some like say hiking destination, or like just sound like a nice scenic spa, and then we just go tour around. Yeah.
That sounds nice. Did you have like a favorite meal that your mom made?
Yeah, my mom's cooking is really good. And so I really like everything that my mom made, especially so this specialty item that um, usually during the Lunar New Year that she will make is kind of this kind of turnip or white radish, I don't know, rice cake. And it's really good.
That sounds really yummy. And did you go to school with your siblings? Did you guys go to the same school?
Yeah, so my older brother and I went to the same elementary school, and also the same junior high school. And then, but my younger brother only spent the first year in the same elementary school. I mentioned that we moved a little bit uh, away, so that happened when I think when I was a fifth year in my elementary school. So we have 6 years in total. So my mom just said, why don't you just finish? It's not like we really moved that far. But then for my younger brother, he just kind of started his elementary school. It just doesn't make sense for him to go to the farther one. So he went to the closer one. Yeah.
Was it nice having people like your family in the same school? Like, did you guys say hi when you saw each other, or was it like not fun?
So it was okay for me, but it might be because all of us went to a St. Junior high school, and I actually suspect it was actually harsh for my younger brother. So so back then, my older brother and I have like really top grades, and so all the teachers knew us. So for example, like when I just in my elementary school before I pass any test, and they were just, oh, your older brother is really good, you should be like him. And then sometimes you don't really like to hear those things. Just like, oh, I have my own identity. But then but then but somehow my grade was also pretty good, so eventually I just like, I mean, I'm better than my brother and stuff. But my younger brothers, he was just a little bit slower on the grades. He's a good kid, but back in the environment, all they see is like grades. They don't see other things. So then, they just like, oh, you should be like your older brother, your older sister, and then just kind of like really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been hard to live up to that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Did religion play a role in your life at all as a younger kid?
Not really. So I think we don't really have a strong religion. We're not Christian, we're not like Buddhist, or it's more of like um we were so-called, it's more like a folks customs, I think. It's just like, oh, you need to respect your ancestors and that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, those are good like values to have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can you describe a particularly worrisome or challenging experience from your childhood?
I see. Actually, my childhood, yeah, I think it was pretty good. I don't really particularly remember like anything that's tough, I think. Yeah. I do remember that back then, it's just the culture is so grade centric. So it was like I just happened to have very good grades. So like as I being a like say smart kid, so I got a lot of like advantages. But then like I wasn't too good like say sport or whatever. But nobody paid attention to those things. Yeah. So even though I feel like, oh, all the other kids can run, can jump, um, but I have good grades, so it's very easy to get over. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a more important area to
Mm-hmm.
get at. So we've talked a lot about like gender roles when you
Mm-hmm.
were growing up. And I know like now you're a climber, an outdoor
Mm-hmm.
educator, computer scientist. What kind of like those are all kind of male dominated fields. So how are you kind of like inspired to like push past those gender roles as a kid? And like were you kind of aware like of that pressure as a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize it was like so male dominant. Yeah, obviously until so I went to an all girl high school. So Vicky is my high school classmate. Um, and so I think it's like looking back, it was kind of nice that to be in the all girl high school, that I don't have to worry about other things, and then just kind of like affinity based kind of program. And then I went to computer science. It's like I remember that my mom, so she's an interesting character. So she has this contradictory view. So she always think that, okay, because of her own experience, she's like, oh, even you are a girl, I want you to study, and then you need to get your PhD, right? So that's what she thinks. But at the meantime, she always also worry about that. Oh, then if you doing this, you might not act like a woman, or like a girl, then you're not that girly. So she's kind of have uh this torn like inside her. So then she will give me like very contradictory messages. For example, when I remember when I was younger, my mom was just like, oh, you need to know how to cook, because eventually you're gonna cook for your family. I say, then how come my brother doesn't need to learn how to cook? Maybe you need to cook for his family too. And then my mom would say, oh yeah, his job is to make money for the family, so his wife is gonna cook. I say, I don't think so. So like ever since I was a kid, and I would like debate with my mom, just like, how come older brother can do this, I can't do that? So I think even though I wasn't aware of it, I already like think about like why are we like men or women are like different. Especially this one time that there's also this little story that there's one time in my house this light bulb went out. So I just like, oh, where's the new light bulb? I told my mom so I can change it. And then my mom was like, oh, no, we should wait until your dad comes home. I was just like, it's freaking just change a light bulb. It's like, it's not really that hard. Uh, and somehow it's a man's job or whatever. But then my mom also like have this like, oh, women should like be successful too. So she also have this contradictory view. So sometimes if I call her like when she's also thinking about that and say, how come my brother can do it, I can't, and then she's like, okay, I guess you can. So I and then my older brother, somehow he has this very open-minded view, because I was just like, I remember when he was a kid, I was just like, well, what if like in the future your wife make more money, more like have higher salary than you? And then he said, that's great. Yeah. Then I'll be so proud. And then like then she can do all the work, like so for me it's just like, oh yeah, maybe it's not that different. And then and I was like prepared, like in high school, I didn't have to think about it. It's when I went to college, I was like, oh, in the class, we have 50-ish students all admit to say the computer science department, and then only 5 girls. I was like, well, that's not that many. Yeah. But somehow I don't really feel quite different. Actually, not until I got to the States. It's kind of funny that I remember that I went to University of Penn to study computer science in grad school. And I remember that I would say something, and then all the male peer, they seem like they didn't hear me. And then later there will be like another male student say something. I was just like, that's exactly what I just said. And then they were like, wow, what a great idea and stuff. And I was just like, come on. So that's when I realized that maybe as a woman minority in the field, that you might have to even perform above average for you to gain attention. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you had so many like different kind of perspectives growing up, like how it's like ended up in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So did you always know like you wanted to go into these professions, or like did you have a completely different like dream as a little kid?
Yeah, so I think I remember when I was really young, I was talking about dreams, like just like kids. Then talking with my older brother, I was just like, oh, brother, what do you want to become when you like grow up and stuff? And then I remember that my brother said he want to be a scientist or something. And then um, obviously my brother said, well, what about you? I just like, I don't know. I just want to live happily, do what I wanted to do. I don't have a very say concrete idea. But then back then I told you that I treat my brother as my role model, and he just like he just pondered for a long time, say, my younger sister, this is my younger sister wanted to do. And I was just like, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with that? And then but then he replied, say, I guess it's all right. I mean, it's not like you're gonna harm anybody, And I was just like, I got like approved. And then so I just always think I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So that was my dream. But somehow then my mom has a notion of what she want me to do. So she wanted to inject that into like me and want me to treat it as like what I think I wanted to do. So I didn't really quite have a lot of time to figure out what I really want to do until that I really got a chance, which is after I got to United States, actually. Yeah, because I originally didn't think I would come to United States because I didn't like English. I hated studying English. But then when I graduated from college, even though I went to computer science, it was interesting enough. It's not like I was bad or whatever, but I'm not sure, just kind of like still need some time to figure something out, even though I don't know what I wanted to figure out. So I took a break. I didn't supposedly I didn't go to grad school, and my mom was not very happy because my mom think that you need to get your PhD, so back then was a lot of tension in the house. So I asked my brother, my older brother, it's like, I don't know. I mean, there's no way I can make mom happy and stuff. And then he said, why don't you go to the United States? And I was like, oh, I can run away from home. And and so that's how I end up in United States. Yeah.
Wow, that's like really fascinating. Like things like shift a lot while throughout growing up, like your idea of what you wanted to do. But I feel like it worked out. I feel like you're in a good field. You're doing so many things. So how has Taiwan changed since you grew up there?
I think it has changed a lot. I think so. Because even though I grew up in Taipei City, I was more in the outskirts of Taipei City. So when I grew up, especially during the elementary school time, still a lot of fun. And then now it's like it's just more buildings, it's more crowded, and then there's like the mass transit system. I think that the first line of the mass transit system didn't finish in Taipei until when I was already third year in my college. And then obviously every time I came to the state like 2 years, 1 year after I graduated from college. So which means the 2 years after the first line is like start to operate. So obviously now it's like the network is complete, and then I think also the culture it's kind of shift a little bit too. It seems like some people jokingly say if you are like the early immigrant to United States, then you might just hold on to your older value more tightly because you're kind of like you feel like more isolated. You're not moving as a pack as like other like people that look like you. But in Taiwan, it's like now there was a younger generation. I think their thoughts, at least this is how I feel, it's like more advanced, and then people seem to think more open-minded, and then also in general people are more wealthy, and then they also have like issue about like so they people start to not wanting to do labor intensive work. So there's a lot of laborers from like Southern East Asia, like Vietnam or like Thailand or Malaysia or Indonesia. So then they start to have to deal with like think about like the diversity issue too. Just like in United States, we have a lot of immigrants from all over the place. Yeah, but back then it's like, oh, everybody look the same. They now they start to pay more attention native Taiwanese, and also like all this people they're coming from like other different countries.
Yeah, it seems like there's like new like inventions with the mass transit, new people, new problems, new ideas. So
Right.
it does seem like it's changed a lot. So we're kind of nearing towards the end. So in sum, what kinds of feelings and words would come to mind when you remember your childhood in Taiwan?
I would say that it's really stress-free. I mean, that's a thing that I think that the newer generation they might not have. It just I've seen a lot of kids, they have to learn all sorts of, I don't know, talent or whatever. So like they all like worry about, okay, you need to do sport, you need to learn musical instrument, you need to learn English when you're like even at a younger age. But I think I'm lucky enough that when I was elementary school, my mom did put me in like English whatever class when I was like 11 or whatever, and she wanted me to learn piano, and I didn't like it. So last 2 months, and and then but eventually my mom just like, okay, whatever, it's not like we have a lot of money, like if I don't want to learn it, she said, then don't waste the money to like hire piano teachers and stuff. Yeah. So so for me, even though I didn't go travel around when I was a kid, but I read a lot of books, have a lot of free time. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be stressful to have to worry about all those things at such a young
Mm-hmm.
age now. And then one last question, if you could tell your 10-year-old self one thing, what would it
Mm-hmm.
be?
Yeah, I would say 10 years kind of pretty young. I I would say still, I mean, play, I would say play, and then just explore a lot of different things. Um, I just feel that, remember I said I really want to find like what I really want to do, and sometimes you can until you explore. And I think at a young age it's like, oh, just explore. And I mean, there's really I mean, even you don't succeed or whatever, I mean, you're a kid, like so just go out there and to find something that you think you can try out, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for kids at a young age. So those are all of my questions. Is there
Hmm.
anything else like you want to add?
um mm, no, yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot.
Hmm.
Thank you so much again.